wish your body had like a built-in system for cleaning up, all the tiny bits of cellular clutter. Well, good news it does. It's called autophagy. And today, we're going to dive deep into this process. We'll uncover how it impacts aging, inflammation, and even, our response to food.
Yeah, we'll be unpacking some fascinating insights from a recent article you shared.
Okay, awesome.
I think you'll be surprised by just how much power we have to influence these processes.
Oh, I'm all ears. So, to start us off, can you explain exactly what autophagy is? What's going on at the cellular level?
Sure. It's like your cells have their own specialized waste management system. As cells go about their daily functions, they inevitably accumulate damaged parts, old proteins, even stray bits of DNA.
Wow.
Autophagy is the process that breaks down these components, effectively recycling them.
So it's not just getting rid of the junk, it's repurposing it.
Exactly. Those broken down components are then used for energy or to create new cell parts. This constant recycling is crucial for maintaining cellular health and preventing things from getting, backed up.
Okay, so I can see how that's important for keeping things running smoothly on a day-to-day basis. But how does autophagy play into the bigger picture of aging?
That's a great question. As we age, this cellular junk tends to accumulate faster than our bodies can clear it out. This triggers inflammation as the immune system tries to clean up the mess. It's a bit like having a cleanup crew constantly working overtime. This chronic low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, is a major contributor to many age-related diseases.
So it's not just about wrinkles and gray hair. It's about this underlying inflammatory process that's happening at the cellular level. That's a bit unsettling, but I'm guessing autophagy can help with this.
You're right on track. Autophagy is like the first line of defense against this buildup of cellular debris. By efficiently clearing out the damage, it reduces the need for that constant inflammatory response. It's almost like autophagy is calming down the overzealous cleanup crew before things get out of control.
Okay, that makes sense. But you mentioned earlier that there are different types of autophagy. It's not all just one big cleanup operation.
Right. There are actually specialized types of autophagy for different cellular components, just like there are different recycling bins for different types of materials. One of the most important is called mitophagy, which focuses specifically on our cells' powerhouses, the mitochondria.
Ah, the mitochondria. Those are responsible for producing energy for our cells, right?
Precisely. But as we age, these powerhouses can become damaged and start to leak DNA, which further triggers inflammation.
So it's not just about keeping the cells clean, but also about making sure those power plants are running smoothly and not spewing out toxic waste. Not a good scenario.
A very apt analogy. And that's where mitophagy comes in. It targets those damaged mitochondria, either repairing them or removing them entirely to prevent further leaks. It's like having a specialized mechanic for your cellular power plants, keeping them running efficiently and preventing any dangerous meltdowns.
So mitophagy is basically ensuring that our cells have a reliable source of energy as we age, and that by keeping the mitochondria healthy, it helps to prevent further inflammation.
Exactly. Now, I know you're interested in how we can actively influence these processes, so I think it's time we discuss the impact of fasting.
Yes. I've heard a lot about the connection between fasting and autophagy. Let's unpack that.
So fasting, or, caloric restriction, is one of the most well-studied methods for boosting autophagy. When we fast, our bodies naturally ramp up these recycling efforts as a way to conserve energy and resources. It's an elegant survival mechanism. When food is scarce, the body gets resourceful and starts repurposing what it already has.
So our cells switch into a sort of make, do, and mend mode. I could see how that would be beneficial, in a pinch. But are there benefits beyond just surviving a famine? How does this impact our everyday health?
Yeah, there are actually some remarkable benefits, particularly when it comes to those cellular power plants we talked about earlier, the mitochondria. Fasting forces our cells to become more efficient at using energy, and this puts a bit of healthy stress on the mitochondria. In response, they become stronger and less likely to leak DNA over time.
That's like giving them a tune-up, like a bit of a challenge that makes them more resilient.
Exactly. And there's another fascinating benefit. Fasting increases the production of ketones. Ketones are an alternative fuel source that our bodies produce when glucose is low. They're particularly beneficial for our brains.
So they're like a backup generator, kicking in when the main power supply runs low.
That's a great way to think about it. And importantly, ketones also have anti-inflammatory effects, helping to calm down that overactive immune response that contributes to inflammaging.
Okay, so fasting is boosting autophagy, making our mitochondria more resilient, A and D providing us with anti-inflammatory ketones. It seems like there's a lot to gain from incorporating some form of fasting into our lives. But I'm curious, what does the research say about different types of fasting? Is it all about prolonged fasting, or are there other approaches?
That's a great question. There's a lot of research being done on different fasting methods, and it seems that there are multiple ways to tap into these benefits. Prolonged fasting, where you abstain from food for a day or more, certainly has its place, but it's not the only option. Intermittent fasting, which involves cycling between periods of eating and fasting on a regular schedule, is gaining a lot of attention.
I've heard of that, like time-restricted feeding, where you only eat within a certain window each day.
Exactly. And the research on intermittent fasting is quite promising. It seems to offer many of the same benefits as prolonged fasting, including increased autophagy and reduced inflammation. But it can be easier to incorporate into daily life for many people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the key is finding an approach that works for your lifestyle and that you can sustain over time. But before we get carried away with fasting plans, I want to make sure we don't give the impression that it's the only way to support autophagy. What about other lifestyle factors?
You're absolutely right. Fasting is a powerful tool, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. Other lifestyle factors like exercise, stress management, and sleep also play a significant role in influencing autophagy.
Let's talk about exercise. What's the connection there?
Well, studies have shown that regular physical activity can stimulate autophagy in various tissues, including muscles and the brain. Similar to fasting, exercise puts a bit of stress on our cells, which in turn activates their recycling processes.
So getting our heart rate up is good for our cells too. It's not just about burning calories and building muscle.
Exactly. Think of it as giving your cells a workout, pushing them to become more efficient and resilient. And it's not just about intense exercise either. Even moderate activities like brisk walking or cycling can have a positive impact.
That's encouraging. It makes it seem more attainable.
Yeah.
What about stress management? I know chronic stress isn't good for overall health, but is there a direct link to autophagy?
There is. Studies have shown that chronic stress can actually impair autophagy, making it harder for our cells to clear out damage. When we're constantly under stress, our bodies are in fight or flight mode, prioritizing immediate survival over long-term maintenance and repair.
So finding ways to manage stress is crucial for supporting our cells' ability to stay healthy and function properly.
Absolutely. Whether it's through mindfulness practices, spending time in nature, or engaging in hobbies you enjoy, finding healthy ways to de-stress is essential for supporting autophagy and overall well-being.
Okay. Stress management, exercise, fasting, it's all starting to come together. What about sleep? How does that factor into the equation?
Well, sleep is crucial for cellular repair and rejuvenation. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation can impair autophagy, particularly in the brain. It seems that certain stages of sleep, like deep sleep, are particularly important for these cleanup processes.
So skimping on sleep is doing more than just making us feel tired and groggy. It's actually hindering our cells' ability to maintain themselves. I'm starting to feel guilty about all those late nights.
It's all about finding a balance. We all have busy lives, but prioritizing sufficient sleep is an investment in your long-term health. Think of it as giving your cells the downtime they need to recharge and do their essential housekeeping.
All right, I'm convinced. Sleep is officially moving up on my priority list. But before we wrap up this section, I'm curious, are there any specific foods or nutrients that have been shown to support autophagy or reduce inflammation?
There are definitely some promising areas of research there. Certain compounds found in fruits and vegetables, like polyphenols and flavonoids, have shown to have anti-inflammatory effects and may also support autophagy.
So eating a colorful diet is good for our cells too. It's not just about getting our vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. Aiming for a diet rich in a variety of fruits, vegetables, and other plant-based foods is like providing your body with the toolbox of beneficial nutrients. That can help to optimize a wide range of cellular processes.
This is also fascinating. It's like we have so much more control over our health than we often realize. But before we get too carried away with all the things we can do to support autophagy, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Are there any potential downsides or risks associated with this process? Could too much of a good thing be detrimental?
Yeah, that's a really important question. Like any biological process, autophagy needs to be carefully regulated. Too much autophagy can actually be detrimental to cells, just as too little can be.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone where autophagy is working optimally.
Exactly. And while there's still a lot we're learning about the nuances of autophagy regulation, a balanced approach to lifestyle is likely to support healthy levels. That means things like, regular exercise, a healthy diet, stress management, and adequate sleep. All those things we've been discussing.
Yeah. It seems those healthy habits are always good advice, no matter what aspect of health we're discussing. But since we're talking about the fine-tuning of autophagy, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the NLRP3 inflammasome. Can you remind us what that is and how it relates to autophagy?
Of course, the NLRP3 inflammasome is a key part of our innate immune system, that rapid response team that protects us from immediate threats. Think of it as a sensor that detects danger signals within our cells, things like those leaking bits of DNA we talked about earlier.
So it's like a cellular alarm system going off when it senses trouble.
A great analogy. When activated, the NLRP3 inflammasome triggers a cascade of inflammatory responses, calling in immune cells to deal with the problem. In the short term, this is essential for fighting off infection and repairing damage. But when it's chronically activated, it contributes to that low-grade inflammation we've been discussing. Inflammaging.
So if it's constantly going off, even when there's no real emergency, that's when we run into problems.
Precisely. That constant state of high alert can damage our cells and tissues over time.
Okay, so I'm seeing how the NLRP3 inflammasome fits into the picture. But where does autophagy come in?
Well, autophagy can actually help to regulate the activity of the NLRP3 inflammasome. Remember, autophagy helps to clear out those damaged cellular components, including the DNA fragments that trigger the alarm.
So by removing the danger signals, autophagy is preventing the alarm from going off in the first place.
Exactly. It's like taking out the trash before the smoke detector even has a chance to go off. And this is a key mechanism by which autophagy protects us from chronic inflammation.
Oh, that's incredible. It's like our cells have this intricate system of checks and balances to keep everything running smoothly.
Yeah.
And we can influence these systems through our lifestyle choices. But before we wrap things up, I have one final question. We focused on the benefits of autophagy, but are there any potential downsides or risks associated with boosting this process?
That's a good question to ask. It's important to remember that, like any biological process, autophagy needs to be carefully balanced. For example, if autophagy is too active for a prolonged period, it could potentially start breaking down healthy components along with the damaged ones. There are also some specific medical conditions where manipulating autophagy might not be advisable.
So, as with most things in life, moderation and a personalized approach are key.
Absolutely. If you're considering making significant changes to your diet or lifestyle to specifically target autophagy, it's always best to consult with a healthcare professional who can assess your individual needs and risks.
That's sound advice. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about autophagy, how it works, how it impacts aging and inflammation, and even how we can influence it through our lifestyle choices.
It's been a pleasure unpacking all of this with you. It's fascinating how much we're learning about these intricate processes, and I think the key takeaway is that we have more power than we realize to impact our health and longevity.
I couldn't agree more. It's empowering to realize that we can actively participate in our own well-being, even at the cellular level. So to all our listeners out there, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making those healthy choices. Until next time.